Whenever any entity is ideologically captured, there's a very interesting side effect. And that side effect is that it drives away everyone who is not interested in being ideologically captured. And that is, in fact, the real trouble that faces the Walt Disney Company today. Yes, we cover much of the bad news surrounding Disney, and there has been plenty of it. In fact, we dare say it's unprecedented. But perhaps the most damning thing, the most alarming thing that Disney must contend with now is that they have driven away the moderates and the conservatives out of their company. And because of that, they may not have a team in place that can redeem Disney even if they want to. Hello folks, welcome back to the WDW Pro channel. We are here to explain entertainment, keep you ahead of the culture curve, and it is an honor every time you allow us to do so. Thank you so much. Today we are talking about the fact that the Walt Disney Company moved in a very hard left direction, and then, since they have stayed there for so long and since they have made it into a bellhaven of where you might want to be if you are of a very, shall we say, toxic variety, well, that has driven out all the people who don't want to be there. And that's normal people. That's you, that's me, the normal people who like being nice to one another and who fancy ourselves as perhaps even classic liberals, who view that ideas should have a space to be shared and thought through, and critical thinking is important. No, critical race theory, that's all that is important at the Walt Disney Company and other intersectional issues. Today we're talking about whether or not Disney can even correct themselves at this point, or will there need to be a total purge of the employees there to give the company even a shot at returning. It's amazing how far one company can fall in just a few years, but here we are. Let's dive in now with the panel, folks, and let's find out, can Disney correct itself, or have they gone too far?
Yes, sir. Jim Jam for $10. I've heard YouTubers say many times, if example Disney movie fails, Disney is done. But a year of flops later, they're still kicking. Guys, what is the last straw? What will force Disney to change? I really think that it's got to be the next CEO, and that next CEO doesn't need to be somebody that Bob Iger likes as his successor. That is the only change that I would accept as an actual sign of change at the company.
Disney is literally the ground zero for the battle for our culture.
Yep.
That's what's keeping it from collapsing, is that both sides are vying for control, and that's being played out by the Trian Group on the right and Value Act on the left. And of course, we're also now seeing that Elon Musk has stepped in as someone who does not view Disney as being in the right direction. Simultaneous to that, we have watched other individuals, especially the corporate world, step into Disney's corner.
So Ron, I want to ask more about the other question that was when and if things will change. It is my contention that although you're right, Bob's got to be gone, the rot is so deep and so pervasive, as we've seen in these things that about Disney animation and activists and everything else, that literally hundreds, if not thousands, of people have to be given a pink slip in order to clean house. And the question then becomes, won't they all have lawsuits saying, I was just following orders?
Well, most people who work in a company, with very few exceptions, are employees at will. And people are routinely fired for following orders of previous management that new management doesn't like anymore. And there's nothing they can do about that. The exceptions to this are executives who have specific contracts with specific terms about termination for cause and termination not for cause. And, in that case, but we're talking about a handful of people in that sort of situation. But I think your point about the essence of the company is really important here, because it's not really a matter of changing management. Somebody asked in the comments, is Bob Iger a left winger? I think the only ideology that Bob Iger has is self-enrichment. This is true of the vast majority of CEOs of public companies. And as a result, these people, they just do whatever they think is going to maximize their compensation, which may be short-term or long-term beneficial or not beneficial to the company. Disney as a company has been in the process of moral deterioration for a very, very long time. Well before this kind of stuff became public, it was nonetheless well known that Disney was a haven for gay people as a place to work.
Mm-hmm.
Remember, it seems like a million years ago.
Ron, just to interject there, we just had a statement out of the Walt Disney Company and the Human Rights Council that they have received a perfect score from the Human Rights Council since 2007, which is very interesting given that we covered not too long ago that Hong Kong Disneyland sits adjacent to a place that no one would want to go, and they go there involuntarily, and they don't leave voluntarily, if you get my drift.
They go camping.
They go camping. So, but they've had a perfect score from the HRC. So congratulations to them.
Well, not too surprising, but there isn't necessarily an ideological bent towards people who are gay, and I know a lot of gay conservatives. But as I was saying, we've heard a very long time ago that about Gay Day at Disney. People and now that would be so utterly unremarkable and uninteresting that we wouldn't even talk
they
about
just announced Pride Night over at Disneyland.
But what was remarkable about it before was that they never announced it, and so lots of people who maybe wouldn't want to expose their kids to, as they say, visible displays of affection, found themselves spending all this money to go on a big Disney vacation, and in the midst of something that horrified them for whatever. And I'm not saying right or wrong, but the lack of disclosure was just horrendous, I think.
So what happens? So really, there has been a mass. I mean, it's. I don't think you can compare it to almost any other company. I'm not aware of any other company that became known because remember, Disney hired. So part of this might have to do with the fact that Disney hires a tremendous number of actors, singers, and dancers.
Yeah.
And there's no people like show people.
No people I know.
They smile when they are low, and many of them are gay. There's because there are all these live shows, and there are all it's one of the biggest, employers of entertainers probably in the country, because of these parks alone. It became a magnet for the gay community. South Florida has actually also, for a very long time, been of interest to that community. And again, sexual preference doesn't have to go along with anything political, but when something becomes culturally known as a haven and everything has become political and everything has become politicized, that crept up through the parks, I think, even as, because, why would Disney be more insane on the cultural Marxism stuff, on the woke, on destroying all these intellectual property assets?
Well, and plus the creative community at large, and I think the Burbank influence versus the Florida influence. I think that the Burbank influence probably at corporate headquarters it is probably more predominant here. For a very long time, the Walt Disney Company has viewed Walt Disney World and the Florida resort as the place where all the hicks spend their money. And they'll staff that, of course, however they can staff it. But this has been a thing where they've ignored an entire ideology over here, and it was a purple or bluish state for some time. That has decidedly not been the case since around 2020 because of all of the issues that we've had. And now at this point, I think the mask issue in particular made it to where you have a lot of cast members who are having to nag their own guests for an entire day, and these guests have paid buckets of money, and so you have this cultural totem, which is an issue between the left and the right that is at odds between people, and they've also accidentally purged a lot of people who did not want to get the vaccine. So it's just been a purge after a purge after a purge, and I think what's left is very left-leaning at this point, and I'm not sure that the company can fully recover from that without saying we are hiring red conservatives. Well, red is a funny color to use here. We're hiring conservatives and only conservatives. I don't think that they can shift that quickly.
And I don't think it's necessarily about all of the span of issues between conservatives and liberals. And I don't even think it's about gay or straight. It's about children and families and victimizing same. That's what bothers people. That's what bothers all of my conservative gay friends about what they've been doing.
Well, I think there's a timelessness that Disney once aimed for, which has now been brought into the most modern and divisive issues that they can possibly weigh in on, and they seem to do it happily. And that's probably a very bad idea in terms of.
I'm sorry.
No, and just in terms of present day success, and they must be playing for something different than that.
A lot of this woke stuff at the corporate level is driven by a perverse notion of guilt. This entire ideology is premised on group guilt and group entitlement.
Tribalism, Ron. Return to tribalism.
You could call it that, yes. And you see, there is, Disney has unique as the entire reason that we have these discussions, and that even someone such as myself, who's not particularly much of a consumer of modern entertainment, can have these discussions because Disney is such an iconic and central cultural force of 20th century America. A lot of when people talk about the white supremacy and the Eurocentrism and all that sort of stuff, Disney typified it extremely well. Disney's heroes and heroines are princes and princesses, basically of Central Germanic, Aryan, kingdoms and duchies and whatnot. And Walt Disney was supposedly anti-Semitic, probably, as far as I can tell, not more or less anti-Semitic than any. In other words, he was like a
man of his time,
a casual anti-Semite, right?
He used some language, but not with specific hate, just because that's the way people talked back then.
That's right, and besides, if we were listening in on what the Jewish studios were saying about, their neighbors, I'm sure it wouldn't be so complimentary either when they weren't busy, on the casting couch. But Disney really is emblematic in many ways of broadcasting a very, exactly the kind of culture that these people hate, that they hate and they resent, and also the emphasis on physical beauty, the heroines, the body image stuff. Everyone, the heroines are beautiful and the Wicked Witch is ugly. I mean, Disney is an expression of traditional mores and standards and aesthetics and ethnic preference, and therefore got hit probably hardest. That.
And at the same time, Ron, Walt is the man who had the first black man star in a film, and then received the very first time a black man ever received an Academy Award. We're talking about James Baskett playing Uncle Remus in Song of the South, and now that movie
you cannot see.
That's right. Now that is no longer allowed to be seen because we have to project a narrative today that is, it appears contrary to what Walt was attempting to achieve and did achieve, and we have to now disparage that and vilify it. And as much as I would love to continue, and I really would, and it bothers me to interrupt this conversation because it's wonderful and it should be had, but we do need to get those super chats out of reverence for the people who have
absolutely
sent those in and paid those. Yeah.
The audio did cut out there for a second. You weren't saying that James Baskett was the first black actor, right?
Apologies. Yeah, the StreamYard has been problematic. I know Nick's had some technical issues. We've all had some technical issues. But no, I was saying that James Baskett was the first leading black man in a movie, and he was the first black man to receive an Academy Award for his portrayal of a character in a movie. So,
how dare you erase Jennifer Lawrence?
Sorry, Jennifer Lawrence. You were not the first.
Sir.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, that is the end of today's endeavor of explaining entertainment. We hope you enjoyed it. It was a joy for us at least, and we hope the same for you. If you liked it, consider clicking the like button, share, subscribe. When you click it, you stick it to the algorithms. It's the notification bell. Drop a comment down below. Let us know your thoughts. We're interested in finding out exactly what's on your mind, and a mind is a terrible thing to waste. Also, folks, we hope you are paying attention to that time change for the Pro Show. No longer airing Thursdays at 5 p.m. Eastern, now gone over to Tuesdays at noon, sharing that time slot with Midnight's Edge. Of course, they were not airing their shows on Tuesdays, and so the Pro Show is now filling that gap for so many of you. And if you're unable to tune in live, don't worry. The Pro Show now sticks around Tuesdays, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday before it goes into the archives so that more of you can listen to more of what we have to say about media, entertainment, and folks will continue to try scooping with all the news that should be fun. Wherever you are and whatever you're doing, keep learning, keep growing, and keep having fun.